Errol Flynn. The actors he really didn't like. Errol Flynn was born Errol Leslie Thompson Flynn on June 20, 1909 in Hobart, Tasmania, Australia. From his earliest years, Flynn looked like he was meant for big adventures. His father, Theodore Flynn, was a well-known scientist who studied ocean life, while his mother, Muriel Young, came from a really important family growing up by the ocean. Flynn fell in love with sailing, sports, and taking big risks, stuff that would later help him play brave heroes and romantic adventure guys on screen. Before becoming a Hollywood star, Flynn lived a wild and exciting youth full of exploring and unpredictable moments. He tried lots of different jobs, like working as a plantation boss in New Guinea, trying to become a professional boxer, and even trying mining and hunting for treasure. His early years were all about trying to find who he was and make money, and his wild streak often got him in tough spots. But these experiences helped create the brave and fearless look that would later make audiences around the world love him. Once he started making movies, Flynn's lucky break came in 1935, when Warner Brothers put him in Captain Blood, an exciting pirate movie that made him super famous almost overnight. The movie was loved by critics and made tons of money, and audiences right away fell in love with his athletic moves, handsome bad boy looks, and playful charm. This role set up his career, and through the late 1930 and 1940 seconds, Flynn became the guy everyone thought of for adventure movies. His performances in movies like The Adventures of Robin Hood, 1938, The Seahawk, 1940, and Thaddeus with Their Boots On, 1941, made his reputation as Hollywood's best action hero. His performance as Robin Hood especially remains one of the most famous roles in movie history, showing his ability to mix physical bravery with a sense of fun and kindness that made audiences cheer for him. But Flynn was more than just a swashbuckling hero. He had a real talent for serious acting and could give performances that were both detailed and emotionally powerful. He worked with many of the best actors and actresses of his time, including Olivia de Havilland, with whom he shared one of the most famous on-screen partnerships in Hollywood history. Together, they appeared in 8 films, and their chemistry became legendary, adding depth and romantic excitement to the high-energy adventures. Away from the screen, though, Flynn's life was as adventurous and controversial as the characters he played. He was known for his wild lifestyle, going overboard with alcohol, women, and expensive living. His off-screen wild times often made headlines, and his reputation as a ladies' man earned him both fans and scandal. The phrase "in like Flynn" became popular culture as a nod to his charm and reputation with women. Even though his personal life was messed up by legal problems, including very public trials, he stayed completely himself, refusing to act the way Hollywood expected him to be proper. Flynn's later years were filled with getting sicker and money troubles, but he kept working in films, often picking more serious or unusual roles to try to reinvent himself as an actor. Even though the way he lived took a toll on his body, he kept his charisma and love of adventure until the very end. He wrote an autobiography, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, 1959, where he openly talked about his life, wins, and wild times with a mix of honesty, confidence, and humor. The book became as famous as his films, giving fans and critics a deeper look into the man behind the legend. Errol Flynn's personal life was as colorful and dramatic as the swashbuckling characters he played on screen, and a lot of it was shaped by his 3 marriages, each of which had different parts of his crazy career and private life. His first marriage was to French-born actress Lily Damita, a glamorous star of 1922 and early 1930s. The two got married in 1935 when Flynn's Hollywood fame was growing, and their marriage quickly became something the newspapers loved to talk about. Their relationship was passionate but explosive, with lots of fights and eventually living apart. Out of their stormy marriage came one child, Sean Flynn. Born in 1941, Sean would grow up in the shadow of his father's fame, later becoming a well-known photojournalist and war reporter. Sadly, while covering the Vietnam War in 1970, Sean disappeared and was thought to be captured and killed, a heartbreaking event that left a lasting mark on Flynn's family history. After his divorce from Damita in 1942, Flynn remarried the next year to Nora Eddington, a young woman who had been working as a cigarette girl at the Hollywood Courthouse Cafe when Flynn first met her during his notorious underage rape trial in 1943. Even though Flynn was found not guilty of the charges, The trial left his reputation damaged. During that crazy chapter of his life, his romance with Nora grew. They married in 1943, and during their 6-year marriage, they had 2 daughters. Their first daughter, Deirdre Flynn, was born in 1945, followed by their second daughter, Rory Flynn, in 1947. Nora and Errol's marriage eventually ended in divorce in 1949, but their daughters would stay an important connection to Flynn's legacy. Rory, in particular, would later play a big role in carrying on the Flynn name into future generations. In 1950, Flynn entered his third and final marriage, this time to actress Patrice Wymore, a young starlet whose career was just starting to take off. Unlike his previous marriages, Flynn's marriage to Wymore lasted until his death in 1959, though it had its share of separations and problems because of his lifestyle and being away a lot together. They had one daughter, Arnella Flynn. Born in 1953, Arnella got her father's good looks and free-spirited nature, but struggled through to hustle her life with personal problems, living mostly between Europe and the Caribbean before her early death in 1998 through his children. Errol Flynn became the grandfather of a new generation of artists and performers. Most importantly, he's the maternal grandfather of actor Sean Flynn, the son of his daughter Rory, born in 1989 and named after Errol's own lost son. Young Sean went into an acting career in his early years, getting recognition for his role as Chas Matthews in the popular Nickelodeon television series Zoe 101. This connection links the legacy of Hollywood's golden age swashbuckler to modern television, showing how Flynn's family continues to influence the entertainment industry many years after his death. Errol Flynn, one of Hollywood's most magnetic and controversial figures, was never one to keep his opinions to himself. Known for his swashbuckling charm on screen, he had an equal amount of fire in his private life, especially when it came to his fellow actors. In none of his more honest interviews, Flynn openly named the actors he hated the most, and true to who he was, he did it with kind of sharp humor and unfiltered redbins that made both fans and critics pay close attention. His comments weren't just casual gossip. They showed something about his super competitive nature, his sharp pride, and the personal grudges that boiled beneath his flashy side. Flynn didn't believe in making his words sound nicer. He was determined to say what others only whispered behind closed doors. Flynn saved some of his meanest criticism for fellow actor David Niven, a man with whom he had once been close friends. Flynn and Niven were roommates in the early days of their Hollywood careers, getting by on charm, connections, and the occasional stroke of luck. But as time went on, Flynn felt betrayed by Niven's willingness to climb the Hollywood ladder at any cost. David always wore that smile that could charm a duchess, Flynn said, but beneath it was a man who would sell his grandmother if it meant a better role. For Flynn, loyalty was the most important thing, and he never forgave Niven for what he saw as being selfish and betraying him during times when Flynn's career faced scandal and going downhill. Another actor who caught Flynn's attention was Ronald Reagan. Though Reagan wasn't considered a big star during Flynn's best years, his steady rise in the industry and his all-Americanage rubbed Flynn the wrong way. Flynn thought Reagan's acting was stiff and boring. He could read a telephone directory and still think he was performing Shakespeare. Flynn once joked he felt that Reagan's clean-cut image stood for a Hollywood that was more and more leaving swashbuckling troublemakers like Flynn behind. For Flynn, who lived life on the edge and showed off his flaws, Reagan's carefully built-up respectability felt fake, a mask that covered up being mediocre. Flynn also took shots at the great Laurence Olivier, despite Olivier's reputation as one of the most respected actors of his time. Flynn, who had often been dismissed by critics as nothing more than a pretty face with a sword, got upset at Olivier's reputation as a master of serious acting. Olivier struts about the stage as if he invented Hamlet. Flynn made fun. While Flynn secretly admired Olivier's dedication to acting, he could not forgive the looking down on he often felt from Britain's Shakespeare experts, who treated him as little more than a movie showman. Flynn's anger showed his own insecurities. He wanted to be recognized as a serious actor, but was constantly typecast as the reckless adventurer. Even Clark Gable, one of the biggest stars of Hollywood's golden age, did not escape Flynn's sharp tongue. Flynn felt that Gable was overrated, a man whose popularity came more from his carefully polished studio image than from real talent. Clark had a face the women loved, and the rest of us had to suffer for it. Flynn said with a mixture of jealousy and disdain. He was bitter about the fact that Gable, often seen as the king of MGM, was praised constantly, while Flynn, who brought undeniable energy and daring to his roles, was often stuck in scandal. Their rivalry was both professional and personal, as Flynn often found himself compared badly to Gable in matters of charm and box office success. But maybe the most surprising target of Flynn's hatred was Humphrey Bogart. Bogart, who became infamous for his tough guy image in films like Casablanca and The Maltese Falcon, was someone Flynn could never respect. Bogey was a sour little man with a chip on his shoulder the size of a ship's anchor, Flynn once said. Flynn, who loved adventure, energy, and spectacle, felt that Bogart's negative, tired of the world style was an insult to the greatness of Hollywood style. Their personalities clashed off-screen as well, with Flynn thinking Bogart had no sense of humor and was cold, while Bogart saw Flynn as reckless and arrogant. Flynn's list of hated actors was not just about professional rivalry. It was deeply personal. His words showed the bruises of a man who often felt misunderstood and dismissed by Hollywood despite his undeniable star power. For Flynn to hate another actor was to declare war not just on talent, but on what they stood for in the industry. He complained against the polished respectability of Reagan, the Shakespeare superiority of Olivier, the smooth charm of Niven, the golden pedestal of Gable, and the gritty negativity of Bogart. Each man stood for something that aided Flynn's sense of identity as both an artist and a star. By the late 1950s, the once-dazzling Errol Flynn, the swashbuckling idol who had thrilled audiences Captain Blood and Robin Hood, was a man whose golden years had been blocked out by money problems, getting sicker, and the heavy price of his reckless lifestyle. By 1959, his money problems had grown so bad that he was forced to think about renting out one of his most special possessions, his beloved yacht, the Zaka. On October 9th of that year, Flynn traveled north to Vancouver, British Columbia, hoping to work out a liaison deal with businessman George Caldo, a deal that might have given him some temporary money relief. He was not alone on this trip. At his side was the teenage actress Beverly Odland, his controversial girlfriend and in many ways his last great love. 5 days later, on October 14th, Caldo was driving Flynn and Odland toward the airport for their return flight to Los Angeles when the actor suddenly began to complain of terrible pain in his back and legs. The once strong adventurer, famous for his athletic gracie and devil-may-care charm, was clearly suffering. Worried, Caldo changed direction with the car and rushed Flynn to the home of Dr. Grant Gould, hoping the doctor could help. There, it became immediately clear that Flynn's condition was serious. He struggled just to climb stairs into the building, his bottling him down in a way that must have been shocking to those who remembered him in his prime. Dr. Gould, believing Flynn's pain came from worn-out disc disease and spinal bone disease, gave an injection through the vein of demerol pethidine, 50 milligrams in amount. The painkiller dulled the pain, and for a short time Flynn seemed to get better. Al Waste storyteller, he fell into longmemories about his adventurous past, entertaining those around him with tales of his wild experiences. Importantly, when offered a drink, a temptation he had rarely said no to in life, he declined, maybe signaling that he knew his health was in far more dangerous shape than he let on. Gould later gave Flynn a massage in a bedroom of the apartment and told him to lie down and rest before continuing his journey. Flynn reportedly told Odland and others that he felt ever so much better for a short moment. There seemed to be hope that this scary episode was just another of his many brushes with danger from which he had always seemed to bounce back. But fate had different plans. After only 20 minutes, Odland went to check on him and found the legendary actor not responding. Panic set in, and despite frantic emergency efforts by Gould, followed by a rushed ambulance ride to Vancouver General Hospital, Flynn never woke up again. That evening, Hollywood's most notorious leading man was pronounced dead. He was just 50 years old. The coroner's report was harsh. Flynn had died of a massive heart attack, the result of blood clots and blocked arteries in his heart. His years of hard living had left their mark. His liver showed signs of fatty buildup and partial scarring, proof of long-term alcohol abuse, which were listed as contributing factors. Even in death, the shocking facts did not end. Reports later came out that Flynn had undergone previous medical procedures for the removal of genital warts, a reminder of the scandalous private life that had often overshadowed his artistry.